Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the Daily Medicine transmission for June 8th, 2021. Our moon is finishing her transit of Taurus today. Going to be moving into Gemini, and wow, summer is definitely here where I'm at. And as any of you who live in a hot and humid environment know, that first real wave of humidity and heat can be really just it can really just flatten you. So I also do feel like that there has been a lot of there's been a lot of adjusting and readjusting. And hello, Angus has come to join us today. My little lion man, our Lyran emissary here. So there has been some readjustment, and the end is the beginning. And this is always what the balsamic phase of the moon represents. It is the waning moon. We're coming to the end of this lunar cycle. There's been so much growth every lunar cycle that happens, just like the female cycle, right? The female lunar cycle as well, representing the energetic cycle that we all experience with this moon phase every single month, right? Where it builds up and it's a culminating factor, and then we lead to the shedding and the renewal. And this is really where we're sitting right now with today's energy, and the transmission that I'm giving here is that the end really is the beginning. And I think there can be some, how do I say this? Frustration maybe, but also an anticipation to kind of get things moving. We've had, there's a sense of emotionally recovering from disappointment, emotionally recovering over the last couple of months, really, of this, disappointment and all those cups turned over, whatever it represents to us. And we talked about this yesterday, as love being the removal of obstacles. And the thing is that there seems to collectively been a recognition of this, a feeling of this, and a readiness to move on from this. But just with all cycles, you can't force it along, and the moon is in fact still in her waning phase. So when I woke up this morning, there was a pretty significant intuitive message here about focusing on Black Moon Lilith. And when I started to pull the astrology together for today, I realized that the moon in Taurus is going to be meeting Lilith, or actually has already done so, meeting Black Moon Lilith. And just a reminder of what Black Moon Lilith is, if you're unfamiliar, it is a position. It's not actually an object, not to be confused with the asteroid Lilith. Black Moon Lilith is the space or the void that is between the Earth and the Earth's or the moon's. I always get them mixed up. The perigee, I'm assuming. Apogee or perigee, I always confuse them. I know what they are, but which is always something. See, these are details that never make their way to my consciousness. And I've mentioned this before. These are, all this Sagittarius energy for me is like big picture, higher mind, symbols and larger ideas and references, but details often can escape me. And with all this Gemini energy, it is absolutely about the details, and we're going to see that that's important right now to be mindful and aware of. But Lilith is a position. It's the space in between the Earth and the moon's perigee, which is or the apogee. It's the position that of the moon's orbit around it's the position of the moon's orbit around the Earth that is furthest away, right? Because we don't live, it's not a circular orbit. It's not a perfect circle. It's an ellipse, all things an ellipse. And as you get closer actually to the body that is providing the gravity for this orbit, whatever it is, that object actually moves faster because of its proximity to this larger body, which is the gravity that is keeping this object in orbit around it, right? So the Earth is the center point, the moon is orbiting around it. And so when it is its furthest point in its orbit around the Earth, the moon will actually go slower. But Black Moon Lilith is that space in between and is representing that space in us, that dark void within us. And it's often referred to as the dark feminine. There are endless mythological connections to Lilith in various religious and mystical contexts that I would invite you to really start researching for yourself if this is an archetype that speaks to you. But it definitely speaks to me, and it spoke to me last night. And so I've had people come ask me, clients and such, how they can, connect with their, their star origins or their guides, how to create boundaries, a lot of really practical spiritual aspects. But one thing that I can speak to in my own experience over, decades of coming to this point is that, that you hear the intuitive voice in that space. Often before you wake up or right before you actually fall asleep, there is that space in between, which is very interesting because that's what Black Moon Lilith is, that space in between, that dark space that's even darker than our own intuition. It's something that's connected to the very essence of the feminine energy of this entire universe, the space that we don't even realize that we act from. A lot of times it's about self-preservation. And, I've talked about Lilith a lot, but one thing that came up is in that space of right before waking up, different than your dreams. It's a definitive separation of voice. It was just Lilith, Black Moon Lilith, Black Moon Lilith. So I woke up and I saw Black Moon Lilith is meeting the moon, right? The moon is meeting that space, that she orbits around, and connects with as a result of the void, right? So, and the degree that the moon is meeting Lilith today is exactly the degree where the new moon was, that we're still in this cycle. We still are in this cycle where when new moon started in Taurus, we had a full moon lunar eclipse, and then we are soon to have a annual or ring of fire solar eclipse, which is actually going to be visible on the east coast of the US, like the northeast, because the eclipse itself is going to be happening right after sunrise, like 6 to 7 a.m. Wow. So incredible to be able to witness even the annual or the ring of fire eclipse. It's going to be pretty remarkable. But we're still in this waning phase of the moon and then Black Moon Lilith. So there's this part of us that is even deeper than we than even our own intuition and our feeling landscape. The moon moves so quickly that represents our emotions as well, how quickly they can change, how the waters of our own self can change and fill whatever container they find themselves in. Ooh, that's important, as we're going to see today, that being mindful and aware of the container that our thoughts are projected into, and the emotions and the thoughts that are contained. These are the ingredients of manifestation, and it's important to be aware of the container that they're in, and also the quality of our thoughts and emotions. And Black Moon Lilith meeting the moon today at this new moon degree, right? This reminder here as the moon is now, in its balsamic phase, right? It's waning, it's very dark, there's very little illumination. And in fact, this is where it's really important to allow this phase very naturally to unfold and to embed ourselves into this darkness, into the void. And that's not to suggest like, you are encouraging your shadow or anything like that into the darkness. It's really just allowing ourselves the stillness, the yin phase, the ability to let this process play out, and for everything that is meant to be released to finally be released and then come into the beginning of the cycle. And there's this connection with Lilith today, that Black Moon Lilith, that seems to be very important in terms of our deeper survival, our deeper self-preservation, and that space within us that we can manifest collectively as well. So the moon is meeting this point today, and we're just, and there's a lot of, the moon is going to meet Algol, fixed star Algol in Taurus, crossing the Pleiades, of course, and is going to be in a trine to Pluto. So again, it's important to allow these cycles to continue for as much as there's some, I wouldn't necessarily even call it anxiety. There's just anticipation. There is a desire to get moving. So let's look at the chart. First of all, I want to welcome back my subscribers, welcome back my supporters. Truly, you're the lifeblood of this channel. I'm loving the comments. Keep them coming if that feels right to you. I love the conversation and the interaction, because that's really where the growth and awareness is able to happen. And if you're new here, welcome. It's so great to have you. And as always, when you interact with this content in any way by sharing, subscribing, the liking, even commenting, it does actually support these messages getting spread out to a wider audience. So that is definitely one way that you can support this content, not just in myself, but any independent content creator. There are a lot of there's a lot of voices out there, and they're all taking, they all have their role to play. But if you find this content helpful, inspiring, then it's really helpful when you interact with it in some way. Okay, so let's look at the chart today and see what's going on, because the moon is going to move into Gemini today and immediately come into a square with Jupiter, which is just finishing up this last degree, this 1 to 2 degrees of Pisces, and is about to move into the 3rd degree, really just, the day of the eclipse. And we're getting into territory of fixed star Fomalhaut, and we'll talk about that today, because that's really important for this whole process as well. So let's look at this reading. Oh no, we're not there yet. Here we go. Here's our chart for today. So let's get into it. So as you'll notice, I have it set for 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So right after the changeover into the 8th, technically. So this would be late last night, going west from the East Coast of the United States. And I want to point out right here we go. We have the moon. Let's move back just a minute here. There we go. We have the moon in a conjunction. It's not on this chart, but Black Moon Lilith, the true Lilith. You can either look at the Lilith that's quote unquote true, which is measuring its oscillation, or you can a lot of people will measure the average or the mean Lilith, and that is just taking an average of all of the oscillations. I track the true Lilith because I think it's just much more, in terms of daily aspects, it's just way more accurate, in my opinion. So we have the moon meeting Lilith, like I said, at that degree of the new moon. And what was the degree of the new moon? 22 degrees of Taurus is that white dove over troubled waters. Again, it's allowing ourselves to really embed in that stillness and in that darkness, because it's in those phases that something grows. And we do have to allow it to return back to that state in order for something new to manifest. And something to keep in mind as we are in this huge Gemini time. We're about to have a Gemini solar eclipse, Mercury conjunct the sun, the Gazimi, in Gemini as well, even though it's retrograde. There's all this mercurial Gemini magician energy. Manifestation requires the darkness. It requires the space in which to create, and the ancients knew about that, and was woven into their mythology and their cosmology, that there is no real manifestation without a space. And so this space is deeply reminding us about the white dove, right? The symbol of hope, the symbol of peace that has really been the hallmark of this lunar cycle that has been so intense with all of these transits happening, right? We had Saturn retrograde, we had the full moon lunar eclipse, we have Mercury go retrograde, we had the opposition with Mars and Pluto, as you see here. So this has been an incredible month, and it really did start out with this intention to allow this natural trust in hope and peace to build within us, because again, it's always about what we are manifesting from within when we want to see it outside of ourselves. We truly are the magicians and the creators of our own reality, and the more people wake up to that, the more progress we're going to see on Earth's in humanity's evolution from a spiritual perspective. So this moon meeting Lilith today at this position is a very deep connection, so much deeper than just our own intuition and our dreamscape, something way deeper than just this lifetime even, right? Because as much as the moon allows us to kind of cross the space and time, right? Allows us to intuitively connect. There's something so much deeper, and that is Lilith. There is a lineage here, something that is within each of us that connects us to the planetary feminine, right? And when we are not in line with this, when we are acting out of self-preservation because we feel that we are disempowered, this is where the Black Moon Lilith archetype can go awry, or we can find ourselves acting out of self-preservation because we are unconscious of this energy, and we haven't really discovered how to empower ourselves within this. So this conjunction today is very powerful, and it really pulls us very deeply into an end type of cycle and reminds us and gives us a direct connection to this, a direct connection to this symbol of hope and peace that is embedded within each of us. But it does, there's not a lot of action involved in this type, especially in fixed Earth, right? Where the moon is exalted in Taurus. There's not a lot of action. There's embedding, right? There is trust. There is quiet. There is stillness. And this is perfect for a waning moon in Taurus, right? That is asking us and inviting us in a lot of ways to just let this process be. It's not really advisable often to make big decisions or to do anything very active or start a new thing while the moon is in this balsamic phase. So it's not to say that there is not something to look toward. It's just giving us the tools and the invitation, of course, to allow this process to really end, right? And to just be in that ending phase, okay? And with Pluto involved in the mix today, this is going to be highlighted as well. So we have this. And so we move on then to the moon being in a sextile with Neptune in Pisces. So again, this is just continuing this process of investing ourselves in terms of the medium of our growth, allowing this part of ourselves to be held by the soil, by the medium, by the fixed earth itself. And this degree is very powerful where it's in a sextile to the moon, because it is this, now we're starting to get into the Pleiadian territory where the moon is in a sextile to Neptune. Both of these, this position is a Pleiadian starseed marking, and so this is starting to get brought to the surface. This is also my IC, or my fourth house cusp. So it's actually leads us to one of the more challenging degrees, because there is, for all of the benefit and for all of the growth that happens as a result of being embedded in this fixed reality and material reality, the soil, right, that the seed is planted in, part of this natural cycle is that there is an ego consciousness that wants to protect, right, that wants to use that power in order to protect for survival. That's part of this process. And then we get back to this this concept of survival and this concept of self-preservation that is then much more accessible with this degree of Taurus. Now, does this mean that we have to actually literally go out and aggressively and violently defeat our enemies in order to survive? Maybe. That is part of living in material reality, is this process. Now, we can find, and we're talking about the moon, this is not really action oriented. Again, this is about an awareness within us about this. So the sextile is an opportunity to invest this energy, right? That 60-degree angle where it's the Star of David, right? You have this triangle, right? That's in the upright position. And then over top is the triangle of the opposite position, which oddly enough is really the symbolism for the Freemasons, because if you look at the square and compass, they are in the same position. And if you go back even further, this could be referencing the sexual act itself, in that the harmonious, seemingly opposite energies coming together in order to, invest their energies into a creative process, right? So we see this here with the moon and Neptune, right? These feminine energies of Pisces and Taurus. And you have Neptune in its rulership in Pisces, moon in exaltation. And so we're still working with this energy with Pisces about really coming to understand our Dharma, really feeling our Dharma. In fact, with Neptune, we have no choice but to become aware of our Dharma and that goes both ways in terms of what our limitations are and what our potential is. And when we're realistic about it, then we know how we are going to enact that Dharma, what our role is. And, Neptune dissolves everything it touches. And so if we are not quite aware of this, we can invest this energy of material survival in a very aggressive way. If there's a lot of unconsciousness about this chart today, it leads us to act out, I would say, and out of self-preservation without consciousness. And because there's a certain amount of emotional, we'll see it in the reading, but the pleasure that comes along with the realization and the ability to heal after some serious upsets or disappointments feels really good. And there's a lot of potential here again. But if we're unconscious of the need to let this cycle really play itself out naturally and down into the depths of who we are, then we can act out in self-preservation. But if we are conscious of it, this sextile is a really beautiful opportunity to see how we can invest that energy of wanting to survive, of caring for, and even being a warrior for the earth, right? The physical reality, the material reality, and how it is inseparable from us in a physical form. We can invest that into, because it's the moon. So the moon is also able to really fill the container that it finds itself in. So it's got this affinity with Pisces, right? Because Pisces is the expansive ocean and the moon represents our own waters, and there's a connection here. So we have to be conscious of it and realize that we can take that energy that really is that wants a fierce protection and preservation of the world that allows us to grow, right? There's no us without this planet, like in physical form, right? There's no humans without this planet. So there is a sense of wanting to protect it. And so we can invest that into what our Dharma is, being realistic about how that also influences us to act out unconsciously. So again, this is a really good opportunity. As you see, this was overnight. So this came out in potentially the dream state, depending on where you are, very early in the morning. It's something that is likely coming through, maybe not fully consciously either. That's the other thing with these aspects. So, but it's important that we're aware of it. Hello, Angus. Okay, so we're going to move on here. And that also means that the moon is also in a sextile to Pallas Athena in Pisces, now just passing Neptune. So this continues on with our own sense of feeling, landscape, and emotional capacity being held by the medium of our growth, the Taurus energy, also able to apply it and invest it into the strategy that has to do with, the soul intervening in order to create a catharsis for purification. That is really where Pallas Athena is right now. And it's important to keep this in mind, because when Neptune moves into that degree, it's going to be way more of a purification process. We're kind of going to have no choice in the matter in terms of our own ego consciousness. Now, if we're connected on a spiritual level, on a higher self type of level, then we'll know exactly what is happening. So when we move forward here, we're going to see that the moon then comes into a trine with a retrograde Pluto, right? And not only in a trine, but the moon is in a conjunction with fixed star Algol, which is the head of the Gorgon or Medusa. And so the Lilith character and Medusa are very intertwined, in such that Medusa represents, when that Lilith aspect is unresolved, if it's unconscious, if we're acting out of self-preservation in as a result of unresolved trauma, right? Then the Gorgon, the head of the Gorgon, shows itself, and this moment is the decapitation, right? That degree of Algol is the head being severed and utilized to impact much bigger monsters, if that makes sense, right? And it's when we resolve our own trauma and we realize how it influences the way we interact with the world, then we also realize that we can not only heal but gain a certain amount of power by realizing this. And so again, it's just with this trine to Pluto, right? Trine, 120 degree angle. It's very stable. It's very foundational, right? It doesn't really require much from us to get these two aspects, this earth trine, and it is in a very material way. We're talking about these earth elements. And so in a trine, a retrograde Pluto trine that has really been very obvious. It's very obvious out in the world how this retrograde Pluto is impacting and expressing itself. It's I don't have to really go into it here, but learn the truth about the scandemic. You know what I mean? Oh, you can't see it in this picture. Let me see if I can show it to you. There we go, Captain Planet, right? So learn the truth about the scandemic. So you can see that Pluto retrograde going back to over the territory since last March is really, it's pretty obvious what territory it's going over at this point. And so this trine, again, we letting go of these things, this balsamic phase is a really good opportunity to just let things decompose, be aware of them, try not to push things too much. And this connection right here is absolutely going to be important. And we don't have to really do much to get the most out of this. We just have to recognize that it's here and allow it to unfold. From here, the moon is going to sextile Mars, and look at this. Mars is going to move into Leo right after the eclipse, okay? Right after it, the very next day. And then the moon is going to move into Cancer right after it as well. So Mars is going to, Mars is going to move into the sign of our sovereignty, and things are going to pop right off. So And keep in mind that it's still in an opposition to Pluto. This energy is not like it was in an opposition. So it was, very impactful in the moment, and released some tension or pulled us in one direction or the other, but is still, the reverberations are still here, and they're still playing themselves out. And you can really feel that in the context of this balsamic moon, and because Cancer is the rulership of the moon. So there is this connection here in some ways. But the moon is going to sextile Mars in its last degrees of Taurus. And what does this really represent? Again, that investment opportunity, that harmonious investment opportunity. And, as we get so much closer to Gemini, in Taurus, the realization of, realizing that we are in fact, that third house is realizing that we are in fact in interaction and creating our material environment at every step of the way. And understanding is the ability to see both sides of a situation, for instance. It's a very Gemini thing. So as we're getting to the end of Taurus, there's a very material realization. And the Sabian symbol here is two cobblers working at a table. And what's a cobbler? Cobbler is somebody who fixes shoes. And shoes have the feet, right, have this archetypal symbol about them, where the shoes in some ways cover our feet, which is our direct connection to the earth, but at the same time it does represent like something that we've created in order to do so. And so there's a mature understanding here that is very materially connected to with the moon of there is one side or the other, but really you have to take into consideration both of them to have real understanding, which is the Sagittarius archetype, which is in opposition to Gemini. So the moon at this position sextile Mars, that is at the very end of Cancer, which is about the intuitive and inner weighing of alternatives. Wow, interesting that these two things are connecting right here. In terms of alternatives, a dichotomy that is meant to be balanced out in some way, where Mars is. We have the moon that is representing the character of true and mature understanding, that we have to have two shoes on our feet. We can't just have, well, we can just have one, but that's going to be lopsided and weird. So we have two cobblers, right? They're fixing the shoes. They are getting them to a point where they can be worn together. And we can invest this energy again into this moment, but we don't have to necessarily make a decision. We just have to acknowledge. We have to acknowledge that it exists and acknowledge that our real power is in the balancing of these aspects. And so this is, again, a beautiful and very potent connection here, that we can really invest our energy and our understanding into this moment where Mars is really having to come to this point of balance within a very active and outwardly manifesting energy. Mars, right? Cardinal fire. It has momentum and movement to come to direct that inside and to be still in terms of realizing, our ability to weigh alternatives is, I think it's really difficult with Mars. And so, but if we can take that energy and really apply it to that place, and specifically the moon in Taurus, it's allowing us to feel it in our actual material environment, what mature understanding actually feels like. Then we can apply it to Mars that needs a little bit more assistance to be like, okay, I know I have to weigh out these alternatives and feel it within me. There's nothing outside of me that's going to make this decision. I, as a consciousness, an ego consciousness, right? Mars, the warrior within us, is going to have to come to an understanding and weigh out these alternatives. And it's the moon in Taurus in the sextile that is going to allow us to feel what it's like to have the mature understanding of both sides. Ooh, we really need this, don't we? And many of us are starting to come around, right? And I talked about it yesterday with the love being the remover of obstacles, and the taking the opportunities when they present themselves to, reach out to people or to just make connection in a way that is loving and connected. And Mars will make the right decision if we do have a sense of mature understanding within us, okay? Now from here, the moon then moves into, it's going to move into Gemini, right? And this is where things are going to get interesting, because not only moves into Gemini, it moves into a square with Jupiter, okay? Come back one moment here. Square with Jupiter, right? A mutable square. So Jupiter's in its co-rulership of Pisces. It's been sitting at the 2nd degree. It's soon going to move into its third, 2 to 3 degrees, and really getting into the territory of fixed star Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut is one of the 4 royal stars. It's connected to Archangel Gabriel, which you're going to see is coming up in the intuitive reading as well. And this square, again, the second degree, like every sign, represents a contrast. So for as much as Gemini is about the ability to discover and to explore and to move about our immediate environment, to collect information and knowledge and learn and communicate, the second degree of any sign, and Gemini in particular, is about the innocence and being open to accepting the blessings, right? You know, Gemini and the magician is the manifestation, right? We are in charge of our own reality. We manifest our own reality, but there is an element that has to be balanced out here that requires us to trust and to be open to what's manifesting at the same time, right? Santa Claus filling all the stockings, right? There's that anticipation and there's that trust there as a child that it's going to happen, and you allow an openness to it. And so the moon here, for as much as the square to this Jupiter in Pisces, that is about the need to caution ourselves, the need to protect ourselves, and Jupiter being this protective advocate, depending on if you're in his favor or not. We still have to, the square here is really highlighting that we have to be open, right? We have to be open and kind of innocent and ready to receive the blessings. And it's hard to do that when we are trying to protect ourselves emotionally, astrally, right? There's been a lot of astral fuckery. I will just come right out and say it, like, especially when the moon was in Pisces and met Neptune. Talk about like unconscious, deep fears from the collective, from past lives, from multi-dimensional perspectives coming right out to be felt very deeply. It's when with Jupiter in some ways is protecting us, but not for much longer. That's okay, because it's time to start moving into the watery realms of the ocean and the collective unconscious so that we can really work with it. But this square here today is going to, right? You just lean into it and you change as a result of it. And it's time to start being a little bit more open to receive the blessings, right? And again, we go back to Black Moon Lilith just for this one moment here, in a conjunction with the moon at the degree of the new moon that we're still in the cycle of, to go back and really connect to something much, much deeper than even our own intuitive self, our own emotional self, something so deeply connected to the network of the planet herself, the sacred feminine herself, and that rather than self-preservation that is unconscious, we can connect to this energy to be empowered, right? And to be empowered to trust, and to be empowered to trust the process unfolding. And this square here with the moon, and as you can see, this is the very end of the day, right? 6 o'clock, or in the afternoon, or in the evening, depending on where you are in the world, right? This will give us an opportunity to really open up, as Jupiter is soon going to move into this next degree of Pisces. And then we have the message, right? Archangel Gabriel is the divine messenger, and we have to be open to receive the message if we're going to receive the message. Otherwise, we will allow ourselves to stay shut down and to, la 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 la, I don't want to hear it. And maybe, just maybe, it's not as bad as we think it's going to be, to have to hear something that maybe we were unaware of because it wasn't time yet. And that's, again, to not be so hard on ourselves about things, that we learn things based on our current reality, and we don't know what we don't know. It's when we do know and we still choose not to acknowledge it that we start to accumulate karma, right? So this is the astrology for today. Let's look at the reading and see what kind of guidance we can get from here today. So I hope everyone's doing well, taking good care of yourselves, not getting too caught up in a lot of stuff right now, but letting this balsamic phase, this incredibly potent balsamic phase that had a total lunar eclipse that was asking us to release large paradigms of belief from the past, right? This is not easy work, and we should all, commend ourselves on some level for like making it this far. but it's not over. So we're going to see here that there is, at least at the heart of things and in our conscious awareness, some resistance, some frustration, an acknowledgement that things haven't quite manifested yet, and what we're going to do about that or not do about that, right? So our causal factor is the Six of Cups, right? This is the Sun in Scorpio, pleasure. So as an archetypal reference, we have learned and accepted the lessons of the Five. And the Five of Cups is like the dreaded Five of Cups, right? The disappointment. Mars in Scorpio, right? Where it's the sting of the broken promises, the broken trust, the disempowerment when we give our power away. You know, Scorpio is about power. And it is about the power that we create when we cooperate with each other. And that urge to be in union, it comes in the 8th house in Scorpio. So the Sun in Scorpio and the Six of Cups is, again, a 6, right? There's the sextile, the 6, the harmonious action that requires our participation in some way. So we've learned and accepted the lessons, right? This is a good reference here. And there are deep emotions here that have deep, right? Fixed water is Scorpio, the depth of our feeling. There's deep emotions that have passed the depths of pain, of fear, of shadow, right? You've passed it and then come back out of it. So there's balance and harmony here through a return to inner sources, because that's, you know, when you face these aspects of being disempowered, of having to realize that somebody's broken your trust or taken and exploited the intimacy that you've offered, for instance, you know, the 8th house is the occult and the hidden. And this is, you have to get into relationship on some level to discover these aspects and to do something about them, transmute them in some ways. That is really, you know, when you come into Sagittarius, that's what that also seems to represent, is the transmutation of this energy into a higher form, right? That is the spiritual alchemy. But you still have to recognize the truth, and you still have to get into the pain and the fear and the shadow, into the depths, in order to get to this place. But this is a good sign, right? This is our causal factor, that there's some sort of balance and harmony emotionally from recognizing and working with, and not turning away from the depth of our feelings and the fear and the darkness and the pain that comes from disappointment. I mean, we've been experiencing this all year. This is not like just happened yesterday, although I feel like some people and in some areas this has been the case, that it's been kind of an aha moment, or there's been opportunities to really start coming around. But I feel like this causal factor has been, you know, a long time coming, and is now moving into this present moment where we have our Ace of Discs reversed, right? And so traditionally, so the Ace of Discs, right, is the seed point, the beginning and the potential for something new to grow, very material, right? And we do have a moon in Taurus. We have that trine to Pluto in Capricorn, right? We have Vesta in Virgo still. And so this, and Black Moon Lilith in Taurus as well. So this is a seed point of a material subject, anything that's material. This can be our home. This can be our job. This can be our resources. This can be our health, right? Virgo is the healing process, but our health and wellness in a fixed form is in Taurus. So when it's reversed, oftentimes there's resistance, or there's a dissatisfaction with the material circumstances. I feel that really strongly, considering all the other aspects here. We have the platypus here. Stop complaining about things. We have the 4 of birth at the top here that's reversed. So maybe a dissatisfaction. Born but not allowed to grow. Oh yeah, that seems much more resonant with what's happening with this balsamic moon, right? We are not quite there yet. And there is a sense of pleasure, right? There is a sense of coming out of the darkness and the depth of our feeling and our pain. And we're in this moment now. We can tell that this seed point, but it's not here yet, because the new moon isn't here. right? We're still in this balsamic phase, right? And there's an inner seed as well that wants to grow. And so there's definitely some patience we need to enact here and to allow this cycle to unfold and take this moment for what it is, this balsamic moon phase, to get in with Black Moon Lilith, to really allow the process to unfold and to let it and reach its depth, right? Reach its darkest moment so that we can plant a new seed. But this does suggest it's not quite there yet, okay? So when we are talking about our emotional or our energetic root, Hilarion, right? Number 5. This is important because we have 4 on the top as well. So this is in our subconscious. This is maybe not fully manifested yet. This is the nadir, where we draw our personal power. Now, Hilarion is an ascended master, research, science, truth, logical mind, concrete knowledge, right? All that third house stuff that is empirical knowledge and truth and logic, communication, right? But this is an ascended master, so it's not just in the material realm, in the physical realm. And this is important to realize, that even the third house, as much as it has to do with our conception of reality, we have to realize that we are multidimensional beings. And so this is happening on multiple dimensions, and we are creating and manifesting from multiple dimensions. And so it's not necessarily just right in front of us in a physical way, but we are manifesting in multiple dimensions, right? It's not like this it's not like our past lives, for instance, or even starseed origins are in this linear chronology or progression. It's all happening at the same time, and we are able to move in and out of these places simultaneously as a result of our multidimensional being. So, but at the root of us, so Hilarion is not only about all of these aspects of research and science and communication, but it's from a multidimensional perspective. Look, he is surrounded by the silhouette and the non-physical entities that are in his past, perhaps the future, perhaps different timelines. All of these things are here, and Hilarion is here learning, accumulating knowledge, research, and bringing a logical approach to our pursuits. This is important. This is where we can really embed ourselves emotional or energetically as well, because you're going to see that the outcome of all of this is the magician, and the magician is the energy of our manifestation. Again, it is Mercury retrograde right now in Gemini, going to come in conjunction with the sun at this solar eclipse in Gemini. So all of this mercurial energy, our ability to manifest whatever reality that we want, is where we're going, but we have to root into this type of energy here of research. And like I said, it's not just about researching what's right in front of us in a material way. That's definitely part of it. And there's so many aspects to research, but it also is about our ability to research and use the logical mind and knowledge on a multidimensional way, in a multidimensional perspective, because it's not linear. It's not linear. And so we have to think about it this way. We have to be willing to root ourselves into this, this role, and we can call on Hilarion. We can ask for assistance, ask for guidance in order to enact this role much more masterfully, as an ascended master would. So as this energy moves up, we have this at the root here. We draw up. We have this spot that is the Ace of Discs reversed. It's not quite ready to be born yet or be manifested. It's just, it's like a shadow of itself in some ways. We are at birth, but it's reversed. So here is another, it's just adding another layer to this aspect that it's not quite cooked yet, right? And sometimes people, when this card is reversed, I mean, look at it, it's so beautiful, right? You have a little henge back here, and you have the 2 children, you have this little animal. I can't really see what animal this is. And then the mother, right? The mother holding this basket of flowers, and it's just this beautiful scene. And of course, number 4 is so stable and secure. It's very much a very Cancerian energy, right? And we do have, again, Mars coming into the last 2 degrees of Cancer right now and investing the energy of the moon in Taurus into that, about weighing alternatives. Now, which would suggest that, again, we are at least aware that something is not ready to be born yet. And there's a difficulty in finding purpose, right? A lot of people want to know what their purpose is. Clients come to readers like myself, they want to know what their purpose is. And we go through the chart and we go through and use energy work and intuitive modalities to kind of lead you into figuring this out for yourself. It requires investigation, doesn't it? And so there's a sense of difficulty in finding purpose. I feel like that there is a conscious awareness here that it's not quite done cooking yet, right? And again, we can find clues to our purpose by looking into our past, our multidimensional self, and being willing to go into this space, right? And there may be a delay with new beginnings, right? This is pretty clear that it's not time yet. And the end is the beginning, but we have to actually let the ending happen in order for the beginning to come about. And so sometimes we have to work a little harder to gather the courage to take our first steps, find a different way. And this, again, is why Hilarion, in some ways, it's frustrating. But if we really root ourselves into this focus on really researching and mastering our mind, concrete knowledge, and the search for truth. If we do this, even at the heart of things, just having this awareness that things aren't quite ready yet, even if it's frustrating, right? Because we have the pleasure, right? We have the 6 of Cups that is just like, oh, I see here. We're coming out of the depth of all of this bad feeling and we feel good about it, right? We're ready to bring that truth out into the open. We're ready to actualize something around this feeling. There's balance and harmony here. But what we are holding right now is that things are not quite ready. They're here. There's like a resonance of it, you know, you have the imprint of it, but we have to let the ending happen first. And what we're going to see here as the outcome of these energies is the Magician, right? Once the end is here and it's just a space, we can create anything we want, right? That is the realm of the Magi or the Magus or the Magician. Consciousness, action, creation, manifestation, self-realization as the creator of your reality. These are all the things that we can expect to come out of this dance of archetypes and symbolic energy in this reading and the astrology as well today, right? That we will become the manifestors of our own reality, but only when there is a space in which to do that. And we have to allow that space. And like I said, with the moon in a trine to Pluto, just allow it to happen. Just allow it, see it for what it is, feel it for what it is, acknowledge it for what it is. Know that your true understanding is going to come out of the ability to synthesize, ultimately synthesize these ideas. But we have to acknowledge that there is duality of thought to begin with. And once we do that, I mean, this is the wheelhouse of the Magician. And so there's this solar eclipse is going to be like, wow. It's going to be this point. It is going to be a seed point in so many ways, and it's going to be a seed point of us as our own magician, right? And how much power we have to conceptualize and manifest the reality that we find ourselves in. And that's really the awakening of humanity. Now, there is some guidance here because there is frustration. There is a sense of complaining in some ways. There is this idea here that we want something to happen before it's time, right? And so we have some guidance. So number 1, the scribe. This is number 12, right? Number 12 is the kind of the end of the cycle, the culmination, the end of the chart, right? The 12th house. And so the scribe is not researching. The scribe is not Hilarion. The scribe is really merely accumulating everything of a culture, everything of a collective. It's accumulating it so that you can engage with it later, and that there is a record of everything. Now, I will say that when Jupiter comes into the next degree of Pisces, it is about the accumulated, although maybe fragmented, historical record of a culture, right? It's like an ancient petrified forest. Again, Fomalhaut is very much got its signature all over this energy. So when it's reversed here, it's really letting us know that we are ignoring opportunities for higher learning, perhaps. We are not getting into this space. And with the panda involved, it's very much like we need to allow the space for our inner voice to come out and to know the difference, right? There's closing of our mind to broader thoughts and new thoughts. It's important that we keep our minds open, allow ourselves to record the information, access the information that's been recorded. Projects may be thwarted and take time and come back. I mean, again, the waning moon, it's not necessarily time to act on anything right in this moment. It will be very soon, so soon with this eclipse. But in the meantime, we may be ignoring opportunities to get into our sacred space and really do this ascended master work with Hilarion. Again, the panda, create a sacred space. When it comes to these energies of the mind and the accumulation of all of the knowledge that there is, we have to create a space. And this is very simple. It's you have to carve out the time and space to be able to go into your meditation, into your whatever it is, yoga nidra. I talked about that a lot. That's certainly, that came up in the Magenta Pixie channeling for the solar eclipse. I mean, the 9 spoke of it really directly. It was yoga nidra, right? This is about creating the space of quiet and stillness that allows you to impact and plant a seed in your subconscious. That is what yoga nidra allows for. It's like hypnosis without the hypnotist, because you are doing the suggestion. It's getting into the state, planting the seed in your subconscious, and then everything else grows from there. Very much like what we're looking at here with this Ace of Discs reversed. Again, we want to plant the seed in the subconscious. But we have to create a space. We have to create a space for it to happen. And this is what the panda is reminding us of, is we have to create the space. So physically creating that space in your home, in your life somewhere. Energetically creating that space by going into meditation on a regular basis. Are you praying and meditating every single day? Maybe more than once a day. It's essential. We have to, right? Because otherwise, then we're just reflecting all of the other stuff that's bouncing off of us. We have to create the space for our inner voice. And I have a feeling that collectively we're still not quite. We just need we need a reminder, right? And that scribe being reversed like that is the reminder that we're ignoring opportunities to come into this really deep research of ourselves on a multidimensional level, our past lives, all of this stuff. So we need this space in our lives somehow. And the waning moon right now is giving it to us, giving us the opportunity to accept it. The platypus, stop complaining and focus your attention on your blessings, right? It's really easy. Power flows where your attention goes. And so this is, again, we may be focused on what's not manifesting. We may be more focused on our difficulty finding our purpose, having this seed point manifest. We may be frustrated and complaining. And this is a really stark reminder of just like turn it around, focus on your blessings, put your attention on your blessings and your gratitude, and realize that things are born when they are ready to be born. And just because you don't see all of it yet doesn't mean that it's not accumulating or it's not growing as we speak. And again, here's Gabriel on fixed star Fomalhaut, right, where Jupiter is pretty much coming into a conjunction. Archangel Gabriel, number 3, very stable. So we have a 3, we have a 4, and we have a 5, right? 3, 4, 5 in the Akashic Tarot. So there is a progression that's happening here. Divine messenger. Gabriel's the divine messenger. He wears the crest of Mercury on his chest. You can see here, he's got the trumpet. So there is a letting you know, right? The signal that it's happening, whatever the message is, and it's the words of truth coming through. if we continue to complain, focus on what's not happening, be completely just shut down about what's happening right now, not acknowledging things, we're not going to really allow ourselves to be open to this message. And the message is going to come through regardless, right? Jupiter is going to meet Fomalhaut, and we are going to get the message regardless. And Jupiter is, the defender of the heavenly realms. It is the benefactor. It is the representative. Jupiter is a great lawyer, but it's the ruler of Sagittarius. That's something to consider. That is the South Node right now. That is asteroid Juno retrograde, both in Sagittarius, Antares as well, where the South Node is. And so we will get a message, and it may be from our own past. It may be from some fragment of the past that will never go away. The signature never goes away. And this is why the 12th house is the house of our undoing, because there is nothing can hide, every lie will be revealed, right? That is the idea, is that when you get to the 12th house, even if it's hidden in some way, shape, or form, it is still the karma that we have to interact with and we take with us. And so it's easy to hide, right, in the water under the surface, not being aware of it. But this is really suggesting here that the message is going to come through. Gabriel is going to bring the message regardless. And so maybe being more open to it, like the panda, right? Creating that sacred space. We're not going to be able to get the message if we keep focusing on what we don't have, what's not here, where our difficulty finding our purpose. Sometimes the purpose is really as simple as just being open to the experience. And sometimes people have a hard time with that because they want to know that they have this grand mission. And sometimes that is the mission, just being aware and open and setting an example for the collective. That's your contribution. So there is a message coming through. Gabriel is coming through, but if we really want to hear it, I would say that focusing here, knowing that we are energetically rooted in the space of real spirit communication and knowledge and the search for truth, and creating a space for that experience is going to be essential, and to allowing this message to come through, because where we're focused right now is the fact that something's not manifesting yet. And we have, again, balsamic moon phase. It's only a couple days to the eclipse, guys, only a couple of days. So take advantage of where we're at now. If you're feeling kind of tired or exhausted, allow yourself the time to build yourself back up. If you're really having a hard time being clear in your thinking, allow yourself the space to let the intuitive messages come through instead of trying to constantly crunch the numbers. It's so much deeper than just the surface level aspects. And it's not to say that those aren't important either, but right now, energetically, I feel like that we really need to let the balsamic moon phase do what it does best, which is allow the ending to really happen so that we can have the space for something new to grow, and allow the moons trying to Pluto. It's just going to be a fully natural process, and it's really about our awareness of it that is going to make a difference. So, my friends, that is the transmission for today. I hope you found it helpful and useful. I certainly do find it helpful and useful to give these transmissions because I'm receiving them too, and that's why I'm actually transmitting them, right? So I hope everybody has a wonderful day. Take good care of yourselves today. If you are interested in a reading or energetic support, Reiki, you can book through catalystenergies.net. That is in the description box below, the link to the website. You can find Catalyst Energies on Facebook and Telegram, also linked from the description box below. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Take very good care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow for the Daily Medicine transmission. Have a good one.